Hello, everybody. We are back with the series of our video podcasts. And my name is Ella. I am a project coordinator for the Nordic Pioneers. And just to recap, the reason we are doing these video podcasts are because we want to inspire youth to take action by highlighting personal stories of activists and social entrepreneurs. So Today we are here with one such, Logi, song artist, designer, founder of a production company even, and also one of our dear jury members. So yeah, maybe you could introduce yourself, your age and where you're from, etc.
Yeah, my name is Logi Pedro, and I am from Iceland and Angola. I was born in Portugal, but I've been living in Iceland for the last 27 years. I am, I'm maybe first and foremost a musician, and that's what I've done for most of my life. But for the last years, I've been getting more into starting companies, and we started this radio station and production company some years ago. And then for the last probably 3 or 4 years, I've been working on more design projects, and I'm just actually finishing a degree in product design at the moment.
Wow, I actually didn't know that. But yeah, it seems like you have a lot of different projects going on. And I think we're going to get a bit deeper into them in a few moments. But first of all, I'm just interested, as an activist, what kind of social issues are you passionate about?
Well, I've definitely, for the last years at least, I've been focusing on societal issues such as inclusion, I guess.
Mm?
I think that's kind of a keyword that has that I have worked with or worked around for the last years. And in Iceland we live in a very homogeneous society, but it's becoming much more diverse in the last years. And maybe the work that I've been doing, or like the talks that I've engaged in, have been surrounded around that topic, inclusivity. And I guess for the last years it's been a lot of these racial topics, but just mainly I guess like oneness is what I want to uh,
Mm?
like work or strive for, you know.
Oneness. Could you
Oneness.
elaborate?
Yeah,
I'm,
just
I'm
this
interested.
just this basic idea that we as human beings, we are not different races. We are essentially just the one and the same, and all these
Mm,
categories that have popped up in the last 400 or 500 years are all very political or
mm,
economical, but in essence we are all the same.
mm. Agreed. That sounds super interesting. Um, how do you feel like being an artist and all, and as well as a designer? Um, Maybe you can put into words the power of like combining art and activism, or give an example of how you do this.
Yeah. So the thing is, with most art that's kind of that moves me, at least, it doesn't have to be very blatant in having a specific message or a specific agenda. But it's very
Mm,
important, I think, for artists to be conscious of their surroundings and try to bring more unity and uh, allowing people to connect through and with their art. And I
mm,
think that, like me as a musician, I've never had lyrics that have been overly politicized or anything, but it's always been my, or yeah, it has always been my goal to give people experiences that they can then like mirror themselves in, and
mm,
they can or like giving them music that invokes emotions, and just allowing the art to be kind of a vessel for something bigger, for something greater, for beauty and stuff like that.
Mm. I imagine also it must be way easier, but like using music instead of, for instance, speaking up at a political event. You can like reach out to so many more people through that art form.
Definitely. Definitely.
Mm.
Like here in Iceland, a lot of the most popular musicians for the maybe last 5 or 10 years are Icelanders that have a mixed background.
Mm.
And, just the fact that the most popular Icelandic pop vocalist, female and male, are both they both have very diverse heritage. For example, Aron Khan, who has been very popular for the last 5 years, he is half Turkish, half Icelandic.
Mm.
Bríet, who's also been very popular for the last 5 years, she has Egyptian ancestry, and I think the fact that they show up completely as themselves and allow the Icelandic cultural scene to uh, enjoy their talents that come from their diverse heritage. That's like a huge activist thing, essentially.
Yeah.
That can be a lot more powerful than maybe marching, even. Like
Mm. Mm.
even protesting. Just allowing people to like connect with their art, and
Yeah.
the fact that their art is, of course, very much their art because of their background and their heritage. That's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what we see all across like the Nordics, which is amazing. All of these different cultures, heritage through art. But I will talk more about your individual projects. But before we move into that, I just wanted to ask you what keeps you motivated to keep doing what you do, even on the worst days?
Wow, it's a good question. Um, for the last months, I've been very just focused on trying to look at life as the game that it is, as the party that life is. Of course, it's very difficult to work in the arts and work in an environment that is not, financially stable, in an
Mm,
environment where you are very much always the product yourself.
mm,
Uh, but it's just so important to, or at least for me, it's been very important just to try to give and find meaning and try to like just enjoy and be a participant in life. For the last months, I've been very focused on mindfulness and stuff like that,
mm,
and I think that's been very helpful in being an artist and kind of contemplating what it is to be an artist at this day and age, because it's always changing,
mm.
and like I've been a musician, or like worked as a professional musician for the last let me see, 16 years of my life. And like during that time, you can imagine how much the music business, for example, has changed.
For sure.
Uh,
Because you were in that
so
band, you have to correct me if I'm wrong. Was it Retro Stefson?
yeah,
Stefson?
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah,
you've been doing it solo now for some years.
yeah. So yeah, we
Yeah.
started the band in 2006, and we played a lot of concerts for 10 years until 2016, when we did like a final show. We did a small documentary for the national television in Iceland,
Mm.
and we are, of course, all very good friends, childhood friends, and we meet up regularly. But yeah, like when we started the band, it was all about selling albums, selling CDs, and we
Mm.
were very blessed to have sold uh, two platinum albums in Iceland, having toured, 30 plus countries. We signed
That's
with
amazing.
Universal in Germany. yeah, we did we had a fun career, but it was also a blessing to kind of go into hiatus,
Mm,
and do it with love instead of letting the project just keep on rolling until people were uh, burning out.
yeah, for
But
sure.
uh, but yeah,
So
like I
would you
said,
say, oh, sorry, no,
sorry.
continue.
Okay, I was just gonna say the music business has changed so much in these years, and when I released my first solo album in 2018, it wasn't even a thought of doing a physical release for me. It just
Mm,
didn't make any sense. You know, music is is of course uh, we say in Iceland óhlutbundin. It's a non-physical product, music, and my music has always been very much about just emotion and stuff like that. So I wasn't really focused on like doing a CD even then or a
mm, mm.
vinyl. But yeah, things have changed a lot for the last years.
So can you describe your sound and maybe the impact you want to make with your music now that you're doing it solo?
Yeah, wow, this is a good question. So for the yeah, I released my last album, I guess, close to 3 years ago, and I've done two albums. They've all been very inspired by black music, I guess. Just doing like the music that I listen to, uh, like Retro Stefson, our band was very inspired by black music, African music, like Portuguese or Lusophone diasporic music.
Mm,
Uh, and yeah, for me, the music was a very good way to kind of uh, feel connected to my heritage, I guess, in hindsight, that I always listened a lot to uh, black music, and that's always been what I kind of been doing myself. But
mm,
like my last album was very much trying to do like a mixture of Nordic music and African contemporary pop music. But that was a very weird album, you know. But the album before that was yeah, just a pop album, I guess. Very black music, very hip hop orientated, and yeah.
cool. So what can you say? We talked about it a bit before, um, but what can you say about the state of representation in both the Icelandic, but even the Nordic music industry?
Yeah, so um, I was once I was working for Red Bull doing this Way Out West festival in Göteborg. I was doing
Oh
the
yeah.
Red Bull radio there. Very fun, and I got to meet a lot of great Scandinavian artists, and it was kind of my introduction in a way to the Swedish music scene, to the Norwegian music scene, and there I got to meet all these great artists that uh, most of them were of African descent, of the African diaspora. And since then, I've been kind of following them. These are artists like Karpe uh, and from Sweden, it was Silvana Imam and Sherry.
Mm,
And so the thing with like music and pop music is that it's very dominated by black heritage and the works of the African diaspora around the world. And it's very fun to see how Scandinavian music has been embracing that more and more for the last years. And yeah, it's just a very like important thing. It's a very important thing that when you have these diverse societies, as we have
mm,
in the Nordic countries, of course, and all of this history of European African relations, then it's very important that people can kind of reflect themselves in the arts that they see. And music has been very good in this, I guess, and maybe especially for the last 20 or 10 years. but we have this problem of lack of representation in a lot of the arts, and in the design world, for example. That's a
Mm,
very homogeneous field. It's a very kind of sad how that design world is not representing the societies that it's
mm,
supposed to work for, at least in the Western world. It's just so important that people can mirror themselves in these societies.
for sure. Because you do this design, the Mason this Pedro designs, where you send a lot of activist messages, such as this soba chair with the comments on diaspora and merging of cultures, heritage, as well as this, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Pom Pom Pom, the
Yeah.
project related to the war on drugs, etc. So, what power do you think this merging and exchange and understanding of cultures holds in activism?
So I think like with activism, the core feeling that people have is love. You know, people love something, so they want to fight for it, or they see a truth in something, and so they feel really passionate about it. Uh, Often, activism is very much, how do you say it, mediated through maybe different emotions than love, often anger or frustration and stuff like that. But the thing with the arts and the design world is that there you get this medium where you can really be passionate about something and you have this kind of a process to communicate it. And that's why, at least, I've been so driven to the arts and design and trying to get what I feel into what I'm working on.
Mm,
And also because it gets very tiring being angry all the time and
mm,
feeling
mm,
frustrated. And that's, of course, uh, you know, in a way, a decision.
of course. So the Nordic countries pride themselves a lot on like their accepting and inclusive societies. But would you say this is the reality, that there's a reality of diversity or lack thereof? Or how do you feel like this looks like in the Nordics today?
So the thing with the Nordic countries is that I think that they are very much struggling with identity, I guess, and they're often people try to root their identity in their heritage, you know, in their genetic heritage and stuff like that. But like for example, in Iceland, you know, uh, like Icelandic identity is the way I see it is a very fluid thing and has always been a very fluid thing. This has been an island that's been occupied now for uh, 1200, 1100 to 1200 years, and it's always been an island that I feel has welcomed people.
Mm,
Uh, we have a we have like these uh, things happening in Nordic societies that people are very much not acknowledging. And I feel it strongly when I'm in Denmark, for example, that sometimes I enter a building and I think, wow, this is a cool building. It's a great building. There's a lot of big houses in Denmark or Copenhagen compared to Reykjavik. But then you maybe start to read about the history of the building and you realize that, oh, it was a family that had a plantation that
mm,
had this building and they were like they're the original owners of the building. And you know, just if I think of my own education and stuff like that, it was very late in my life that I realized that Denmark was had colonies, slave colonies, and that there was a slave trade, and that Denmark, of course, has a African Nordic heritage and
mm,
stuff like that. That, for example, Denmark doesn't acknowledge, I think, in the way that they
mm.
should. And
There's
I
like a
think that
history that's not really being discussed.
yeah, it's a history that we really need to just process, because if like while we're not processing this history and coming to terms with what happened there and kind of accepting that what happened, and it was, very much not a positive thing.
Mm.
This will always be like a wound, I guess, in Nordic society and Danish society, that they can't really fully come to terms with
Mm.
how things were, and that things could be much better. And I think this is kind of like, if you look at Danish politics, for example, it's very clear that they are not conscious about their history. They're not conscious about their history regarding the slave trade and the relations between, for example, Denmark and African nations.
Mm.
Because I think that if people would be more conscious of it, you would have a far less strict immigration policy, for example, in Denmark
Mm.
than what is in place at the moment.
Yeah. So like discussions, dialogue, um, embracing of one's history, and that's in a way what I also think that you're doing with your designs. Um, but have you ever like experienced any criticism or negative reactions because of your work? And how do you handle these, if so?
Yes, of course, I've gotten criticism and negative reactions. And of course, it's always very difficult when you're taking part in a public debate, for example, if you're commenting on something that happens in society and it's maybe in the news and people start to have opinions about it, and even very strong opinions. It can get very difficult mentally and tiring. But
Mm.
for the last months, last years, I guess, it's been very much a realization that it's kind of it's a very much a decision, uh, how you hold on to things, or how you react to things. That reactions are
Mm.
very much something that are something that happens inside of yourself, and stuff like that. It's just so important to hold on to the fact that uh, life is a party, and you can't really be down about it.
No, exactly. Um, I thought we should move on just quickly to your production company because it's
Yeah.
it's super interesting. Could you tell me a bit what it aims to do
Yeah.
and where you got the
So
idea from, maybe?
yeah, yeah. We started this company in 2018. Me and some childhood friends that are all artists, either in theater uh, or music.
Mm.
And we had this idea that we wanted to start a radio station that was catering music to a younger audience in Iceland. There wasn't really a radio station playing music that we were listening to, and that was maybe music, I guess, of Black heritage, essentially, because it's a very dominant, part of
Mm.
mainstream pop music. But still, it wasn't getting any airplay in Iceland. So we uh, decided to kind of just start this company. This is probably in 2016, 17, where we had this idea. And
Mm.
this is a group of, I guess, people that are fairly successful in the Icelandic art scene. Uh, People that have been doing theater and movies and playing music, and we just didn't really have a problem finding a partner to do this with us. So we uh, ended up working with Vodafone in Iceland
Mm.
to start this production company and radio station, and we launched in 2018. Now we've been going on since then. It's been a big school. It's been very fun. We've
Mhm.
had this FM radio station going on for close to 5 years now, and it's been super difficult. Of course, when COVID hit and people stopped going to school, stopped driving to work,
Yeah.
we experienced all our revenue uh, disappearing in 1 week from advertisement. But we decided to pivot and put more focus on producing TV series. And for the last years since COVID, for the last 2 or 3 years, we probably produced around 10 or 12 television series for
Wow.
Icelandic TV stations. And some series have been very successful. Æði is a reality TV series about these group of friends from the north of Iceland that are part of the LGBTQI plus community,
Mm.
and we are doing the fifth and final series right now for that, and it's been one of the most popular TV shows in Iceland. I've myself produced and hosted two series. One was a interview series with Icelandic people with foreign backgrounds about their place in society and their experience in Iceland. And then I also did a series about Icelandic design for the national television.
Mm.
And it's just been very fun. And at the moment, we are in pre-production for our first scripted series. And
Wow.
yeah, it's just been very interesting and very fun. And I guess that's
Yeah,
kind
it
of the,
sounds.
yeah, it's been fun. Sorry about the
No, no,
long
no, no, no,
answer.
no worries at all. It sounds extremely interesting. Gonna try to see if I can find any and translate it somehow. Uh, um, so, what do you think is the importance then of having these sort of general spaces for youth, as I imagine that this production company has sort of contributed to?
Yeah, so we are all, uh, we are a group of friends that we really want to do things for the culture, as we have been saying for the last years, to do something for the culture. But what we essentially mean when we're talking about doing something for the culture is, just trying to plant these seeds in Icelandic society about how good the arts are, how great uh, diversity can be for society, and
Mm,
essentially just trying to curate a more, uh, how to say it, just more passion and compassion into society. And I think we've been kind of successful in doing that in many ways, and just trying to uplift things that we think are important or special or good.
mm,
And we are very much talking about stuff like gatekeeping. We're always trying to be very inclusive, very much just opening the doors for young people in the arts, and I think we've been
mm.
very successful in that.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said, it's a great way when nobody else is doing it, no other radio stations, etc. It's a great way to sort of create that pathway between youths and different groups, etc. But you said you started with friends. So what would you say are the advantages of doing these types of things with a group of like-minded people rather than doing this all by yourself?
So yeah, the thing is, it doesn't really matter what you do in life. Everything you do is essentially always a thing that you're sharing in one way or the other with other people. And
Mm,
I've always found a lot of strength in my community, in my friends, in my childhood friends, and uh, like the company that we started, the the people that we are a 5 people ownership group, or sorry, 7 people ownership group, and we are
mm,
all friends since kindergarten, or most of us, and it's just so important in whatever you do to build a community around it, to build a safe space for your emotions, your art, build a space that you can grow and you can help others grow.
Mm.
Um, Community is everything, you know. In the arts, community is everything. You can't do anything in the arts without establishing a community in one way or the other. So always try to build with people, build bridges.
Mm.
It's very
So do you have
important.
any other advices besides this for like young activists or artists who want to get their work out to a wider audience?
Yeah, just manifest things. You kind of really have to try to like put things into motion. Um, with
Mm.
music, for example, one lesson that I've had in the last years is that it's very important to or like it's all about how you deal with things when they are don't go the way that they're supposed to go.
Mm.
It's all about kind of putting your best effort into making something and kind of just essentially just manifest things. Just be like, if you want to do something, do it, kind of act it out. And of course, you know, everyone has their specific goals or specific dreams and stuff like that. But just really, you know, what happens, uh, happens. Everything that happens is supposed to happen, and your path is your path no matter what. So, of course, yeah, don't be afraid of failure. That's very important, and that's something that's been a big lesson for me in the last years,
Mm.
especially through the company. We had moments in this production company where we've been very stressed about the economical situation of things and stuff like
Mm.
that. But we are very, very aware of the fact that if the company fails, if it becomes the biggest company in Iceland, it doesn't really change who we are. It doesn't really. It's not a comment on what we are. It's just you know, what happens happens, and we can't. We're not building our self-esteem on
Mm.
success or
Yeah.
material things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that sounds like a super good mantra to go after. And also it's applicable for all types of situation in life, especially when you're young and experience
Yeah,
hard
it's so,
times.
yeah, exactly. The thing is, when you're young, uh, just, you know, when you start to do something and you have these dreams of trying to do something and it doesn't maybe go the way that you want, it can be so devastating. It can be so hard getting rejected and stuff like that. And it's a thing that
Mm.
everyone is always in one way or the other dealing with. So it's so important that you have to try to at least establish your life and your self-worth around like inner things, inner truths, inner happiness and stuff like that. You
Mm.
know, you
Mm.
can't really, if you're always relying on praise to satisfy yourself or be happy, then rejection will be the end of the world. You know,
Mm.
so it's very important to try to find your purpose, your meaning, what you want to do, what makes you happy, and build on that, not on uh, material things or success.
Mm. I think that sounds very empowering for the youths that will be listening. So, before we round off, I would just like to ask you some more general questions. So, to begin with, why did you decide to become a Nordic Pioneers jury member?
Well, I was asked if I wanted to be in this jury, and it felt like just a fun opportunity to uplift people, to actually give people praise for something that's meaningful. And you know, there's nothing that's more like giving in life than being able to thank people for something. Like when people actually do something that, like when people put in the work and really do something that benefits the whole, that really brings positivity into people's life. It's so good being able to just be like, here's a, here's a prize for you because you did something beautiful and
Mm.
nice. It's
Yeah, we're
very beautiful.
yeah, we're very grateful for having you as a jury member. And as you say, it's such an honor um, to be able to give away these prizes and honor these people. As you say, it means a lot. Um, and regarding the change that youth are doing right now, do you think that there's a need for a sort of mind shift change about what youths can do and should do in society? Or maybe a more structural change in terms of, for instance, lowering the voting age?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, of course, society in whole is really gearing up for a change, I guess. And it's been very clear for the last years that people are kind of getting ready, I think, for a new way of life, or a new way of thinking about things, kind of a new way to be conscious in society. But it's very important that people feel listened to, and you know, in regards with lowering the voting age and stuff like that. Of course, why not?
Mm,
Really, why not? Why shouldn't we incorporate younger people in decision making? It's to me, it's kind of a really a no-brainer. It's
mm.
yeah, of course, let's do it.
Because we do see in the Nordics, which is kind of a difficult question maybe for you to answer, but a lack of representation in terms of age and ethnic minority backgrounds, etc., in politics foremost, but also in other spheres. So why do you think we see this? Would like lowering the age of voting solve this? How do we like
Oh,
incorporate more of the young population?
it's a very good question. I mean, it's a very big question of how can we engage these minorities in uh, voting, for example. How do we kind of uh, incorporate people better into public debates and society? I think this is all very much just a question of allowing people to be felt and
Mm,
seen and heard. And
for sure. I think that's a
yeah,
great
it's
answer. As you say,
yeah,
it's a big question, but as long as you actually see people and listen to them, they will be heard. And that's mainly what we also do
definitely,
here, try to show
definitely.
it. So that was all of my question. We went a bit over time. Do you feel like you want to ask something or have anything you feel like you want to bring up or adding?
No, not really. It's just been a very fun interview, actually. It's been a very fun conversation.
Interesting discussion, of course. I feel the same.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just want to thank you so much for participating. We're really happy that you wanted to do this with us. And before I leave you all, I would just also like to remind everyone that we have now opened up our nominations for the Nordic Pioneer Prize this year, 2023. So if anyone knows anyone who's contributed to increase local safety or inclusion and cohesion, be sure to nominate. So that's it for this video podcast. I hope you have a really nice day, Logi, and thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
See you. Bye.